Yeah, so Brian, for people who, because I don't think you were doing the super low volume at our last podcast. Maybe you were just starting it, but now
So
it's been a while.
yeah, I think the last podcast, I think I was still in the mix of kind of doing 2 times a week full body, which was low volume simply by the frequency, but the amount of volume that I was doing per muscle group was certainly higher than it is now. So back at that point, I was doing around 3 sets per exercise twice a week as full body. So I was still hitting about 6 sets per muscle group across the week.
Hmm.
And now, what I've been doing for the last 2 months or so, maybe even longer at this point, is I switched to a 3 times a week full body, but I dropped everything down to 1 set per exercise. So I'd basically be hitting each muscle group with 3 sets across the course of the week. And that was actually working phenomenally well. It's still working phenomenally well for my upper body. And that's been an interesting revelation of sorts because uh, it does kind of fit into that, dogma recently of 1 set 3 times a week means gains, but 3 sets once a week means maintenance type approach that you hear from Beardsley and stuff like that. And for my upper body, it's been like insanely productive being able to just, take that 48-hour recovery window from Monday, Wednesday to Friday and hit each exercise with one hard set to failure and beyond and then come back 48 hours later and do it again. I've been progressing consistently and surprisingly in my upper body work. What I noticed is that my legs were not progressing. I'm guessing it's a combination of the psychological arousal that's needed to really go hard on legs 3 times a week, which I've never been a huge fan of. It's always kind of been the deterrent to when I've tried full body programs in the past. And so after a number of weeks of just, really struggling to just match my reps on my leg work from the prior week, I went back and reflected on some of my logs and when my best leg training occurred. And it was always in the past when I would be doing legs once every 5 days, but with more volume than, this frequency approach was allowing me to utilize. So now I'm kind of at the point where I have these three upper body workouts that I'm still doing 3 times a week, like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday type thing. And every 5 days, I just sprinkle in a leg workout. So, I'll just have three upper body workouts, boom, boom, boom. All right, it's been 5 days, skip upper body, throw a leg workout in, hit upper body the next day, wait 5 more days, upper, 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 whatever, throw in another leg workout. So I have these like rotating leg workouts that I just input into the program at like an auto regulation level every 5 days or so. And I just started doing that again 2 weeks ago. So far, already feeling better. Like the volume, instead of being 1 set 3 times a week for quads and 1 set 3 times a week for hams, I'm now doing about 3 to 5 sets for quads and 3 to 5 sets for hams on that single training day. So slightly more training volume, uh, slightly lower frequency, but over the course of, if you extrapolate out that over a month or multiple months, the training volume for legs will actually be higher than it would be if I was just continuing to do 1 set 3 times a week. So I'm assuming that this change should elicit some progress as it has demonstrated in the past, and I'm just going to keep going with the upper body stuff as it is. Final thing to add here would be that the upper body work is, like I said, 1 set per muscle group 3 times a week. So I'm doing 5 total working sets on Monday, 5 total working sets on Wednesday, 5 total working sets on Friday for upper body. So just 15 total working sets across the week.
Wow. And I mean, yeah, the problem with the low body 3 times a week for just one working set, there's just so much warm up involved, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I mean, you're doing like because you have the not the leg press, it's the
It's like an inverted hack or inverted leg press. It's like a kind of like a back supported hack squat with a hip hinge, sort of.
yeah, and you're doing
Yeah.
like what, 6 plates per side or something?
It's like 600, yeah, 580, something
Yeah,
like
it's just,
that.
I mean, it's just so much to like warm up to and everything versus upper body. I mean, you warm up your chest and your back, and then you're kind of ready to go with, shoulders, biceps, and triceps. So, yeah, it just seems like it would be mentally exhausting, if more than anything.
Yeah, and it's time deficient. So like my upper body workouts are only taking 30 to 40 minutes to get through those 5 working sets each. And then uh, just to do the leg stuff would be like another 30 minutes of like warming up and preparing just for one top set. So
Yeah.
being able to have like that leg day that I just sprinkle in every 5 days, I warm up, I hit my 2 to 5 upsets for each and then kind of move on. So that's also been great because now I'm getting both workouts done in like 30 to 40 minutes. So I have 30 to 40 minutes 3 times a week for upper body, 30 to 40 minutes once a week, more or less for lower body, and then a bunch of cardio.
Yeah. Aaron, has your volume changed dramatically since adding in the PEDs?
Lower, I would say.
Okay.
Lower. Yeah. And then, well, and now it was lower like in the off season a bit, and now I'm kind of in the I mean, I'm here, I'm like this goal's I wouldn't say it's like very important to me, a very high priority in my life, but it's something that I said I was going to do, and I'm going to give it like my damnedest. And for someone like me, like I have a lot of time freedom. So like if it's I could train for an hour and 15 minutes, or I could train for 2 hours. It doesn't really change my day that much. And I'm like, I'll train for 2 hours. Like, I would rather do more if it's going to get me an extra 1 or 2% because I have the time. If I didn't have the time, I think I would make a different decision.
Hmm.
So volume is like pretty high now for upper body. But no, I would say it came down. Like at the end of my final, natty diet, like our volume was crazy high. So it actually came down once I started.
What was it then and now?
Then we would train, there'd be either two of us or three of us, and each upper body session would take us 3 hours. The leg days pushed into four.
Wow.
And like a leg day would be, let me think if I can remember. We would have three hard sets on the leg press. We would have a top set back off on a leg extension, a top set back off rest pause on a prone ham curl, two heavy sets of an RDL, two sets of a standing ham curl, and then we'd have a rest pause on the hack squat too. I mean, it was like disgusting volume.
Yeah.
Um, they were I look back fondly on them. Like I learned a lot, right? I was able to disprove the natties can't handle PED user volumes because everyone was using PEDs except me, and I was 36 years old and recovered perfectly fine
Yeah.
once I adapted to it. But yeah, I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore. And then it just came down. It came down because I had this massive new vector for growth, so I didn't need to do all the volume, and like I could have, but why? It would have been incredibly superfluous while when you're bringing in this bomb of hypertrophy when you're introducing PEDs for the very first time.
You also mentioned that you were getting so much more out of each set too. Like you said, the when you're doing leg extensions, like one set and your quads get so blown up that you can barely even do a second set.
Yeah, that was something I was very unprepared for. And that was just on TRT. TRT and food increasing a lot. One set of leg extensions, my legs, I had the biggest leg pump I'd ever had in my life, and it was very painful, like bad painful.
Hmm.
Um, so that was definitely something like at that time I couldn't have handled the same volume because of the changes that were going on.
Do you think that the high volume you were doing at the end of your natural time, given that you were dieting, do you think it was even beneficial compared to, let's say, half that volume?
It's really hard to say. I don't think I have a good answer. But I was able to test a lot of theories, right? Because a lot of the things that people say, as a natural, you can't recover, right? Or you're going to tank your testosterone or a lot of these things. I posted my highest natural testosterone ever at the
Hmm.
end of that diet, right?
Oh, even
After
dieted
all that
down.
high volume. And I mean, I'll send, I was shredded like 6, 7% body fat. It was the only 600 plus nanograms per deciliter testosterone I'd ever had.
Wow.
Um, and I recovered perfectly fine. And like it was by far the best physique I had ever built. So I think it's one of those things that it's really hard to say, but if I would have like benefited from doing less volume, but I didn't know I had no negative outcomes out of it except for opportunity cost on time. really,
Right.
which is a negative, of course,
Sure.
but